This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
This message is brought to you by Apple Pay. Forget your wallet? It's all good. Because with Apple Pay, you can pay with a simple tap of your iPhone, the wallet you never forget, at millions of places worldwide, including websites, apps, and anywhere you see the contactless symbol. Security is built in with Face ID, so you don't have to worry about your cards getting lost or stolen. And the best part, you still earn the card rewards, points, and cash back you love. So say goodbye to the bifold. Add your card to Apple Wallet and start paying the Apple way. Terms apply.
On Thursday night, guests at President Trump's pay-to-play meme coin gala were greeted by a crowd of protesters outside. Former NBA player turned crypto guy Lamar Odom posted a video of himself walking into the Trump National Golf Club in Virginia, past signs saying "No Kings" and "Stop the Crypto Corruption." Odom was one of the top 220 buyers of Trump's meme coin, and because of that, he got to party with the president. So did Chinese crypto billionaire Justin Sun, who posted a video from inside the event.
Currently, I'm at the VIP lounge waiting for the president to come with everybody.
Sun was charged by the Securities and Exchange Commission in 2023 for fraud and market manipulation. This fall, he invested millions in one of the president's other crypto ventures, and come February, the Trump SEC asked a court to pause the lawsuit against him. According to the Washington Post's analysis, Trump-affiliated businesses have gotten $312 million from crypto sales and $43 million in total fees since the Trump coin debuted in January.
Why didn't you tell me that? I would have worn a tuxedo. I just want to tell you it's an honor to be with you. You know, we've been pushing the market of crypto and Bitcoin and all of it, everything. And I do it for a reason, not for me. I really do it because I think it's the right thing to do.
We can't know exactly who went to the dinner unless they identify themselves. The Trump coin leaderboard only lists their usernames and crypto wallet addresses. Some may be foreign nationals who can't legally donate to a U.S. campaign, but they can buy the president's crypto. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said it's absurd for anyone to insinuate that this president is profiting off the presidency. But there's Trump Coin, Melania Coin, World Liberty Financial, which is tied to the Trump family, and its new stablecoin, USD1. And here's the thing. Trump is not the only crypto backer in Washington. This week, a crypto-friendly bill passed a key Senate vote. It's called the Genius Act.
The Genius Act folds stablecoins directly into the traditional financial system while applying weaker safeguards than banks or investment companies must adhere to.
On Monday, I watched Senator Elizabeth Warren caution against passing this bill on the Senate floor.
Make no mistake, we are likely to see another financial crisis in the coming years, and we are virtually...
Law professor Hilary Allen was watching too. She says seeing the Genius Act advance is like watching a slow-moving car crash.
The thing I've been worried about all along is something that impacts people that have never invested in crypto.
Hilary teaches law at American University, and she worked with the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission that examined the 2008 crash.
I, for my whole career, have focused on financial crises, how they happen, what we can do to make them less likely. And what I see with crypto, even though it claimed to be sort of a new alternative to the financial system that busted in 2008, it really replicates and exacerbates everything that was wrong. It accelerates it. It adds new operational risks. And so really, we're setting ourselves up, I firmly believe, for another big financial crisis, which will hurt people that never even invested in crypto.
Today on the show, crypto notches its first big legislative win. Why Hilary says we should all worry. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around.
This message is brought to you by Apple Pay. Forget your wallet? It's all good. Because with Apple Pay, you can pay with a simple tap of your iPhone, the wallet you never forget, at millions of places worldwide, including websites, apps, and anywhere you see the contactless symbol. Security is built in with Face ID, so you don't have to worry about your cards getting lost or stolen. And the best part, you still earn the card rewards, points, and cash back you love. So say goodbye to the bifold. Add your card to Apple Wallet and start paying the Apple way. Terms apply.
This podcast is sponsored by Udacity. You might be wondering how certain people are landing tech jobs with high-earning salaries, unlimited PTO, remote work, and free lunch. Well, learning the skills the companies need can help you get there. Udacity is an online learning platform with courses in AI, data, programming, and more. With Udacity, you're not just passively watching videos or reading articles. You're doing practical exercises and projects that prepare you for the job you want. That's why 87% of Udacity graduates say that they achieved their enrollment goal. With real-world projects and human experts that grade your work, you'll truly get the skills you need. When you have a certification from Udacity, recruiters and employers take notice. So for a better job, better salary, and better skills, check out Udacity today. The tech field is always evolving, and you should be too. You can try Udacity risk-free for 7 days. Head to udacity.com/TBD and use code TBD for 40% off your offer. Once again, that's udacity.com/TBD for 40% off, and make sure you use promo code TBD. The Genius Act is a first-of-its-kind bill that would regulate the cryptocurrencies known as stablecoins. Unlike Bitcoin or Ether, whose value can fluctuate wildly, a stablecoin is pegged to an underlying asset, like gold or a fiat currency like the dollar. The acronym GENIUS, by the way, stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. Congress loves a cutesy name. The law would create a basic legal framework for the coins, who can create them, and how they're classified by the government. Notably, like a lot of crypto, not securities or commodities. Hilary says it reads like a crypto industry wish list.
So what this bill does is it basically creates this parallel lighter touch banking regulatory regime for stablecoins. So you have to get licensed to issue a stablecoin. But if you do, you don't have to play by all the rules that banks have to play by. And the justification for that is that what stablecoin issuers are doing isn't as risky as what the banks do, right? Banks take your deposits and then they invest them in all kinds of things, often long-term things. There may be a run. That is risky. That is something that we've always known, and we like it because it gets money out into the economy through loans, but it comes with downsides. Stablecoins, the reserves that they invest in are what we typically call safe assets. Cash, treasuries, things like that, things that are typically pretty easy to turn into cash at a moment's notice. And so the argument is they're not so risky. But you know what they look a lot like? They look a lot like money market mutual funds. Money market mutual funds are funds that have been around since the 70s that also invest in quote-unquote safe assets. And you know what? We've seen 2 runs on money market mutual funds. There was a run in 2008. Again, bailouts required. There was a run in 2020. Again, bailouts required. So to have this light touch law that doesn't really address the fact that there are risks of runs in this situation, to me seems crazy.
Why do you think this particular kind of legislation is catching on now? Like, why is there momentum to do this now?
I mean, the short answer is because the crypto industry threw a whole lot of money at the election cycle in 2024, and now the receipts are coming due.
The crypto industry, by the way, spent more than $130 million on the 2024 elections.
The crypto industry really has failed to get the penetration that it wanted. So a recent survey came out from the St. Louis Fed that said that fewer than 5% of Americans own crypto, right? And of them, fewer than half have more than $3,000 worth of crypto. So this is not something that has gained huge penetration in the United States. And what we often see coming out of these Silicon Valley business models is if you can't succeed on the merits of your business, well, then you try to lobby to get laws that help your business. And so ever since sort of 2022, the name of the game for crypto has been trying to get the legal status it wanted. Sort of that's been much more important than the technological innovation. And in 2022, a lot of money was thrown by the crypto industry, particularly Sam Bankman-Fried, at trying to get certain laws passed. And that's when you first saw these types of laws coming up. One big impediment to them was that Sherrod Brown, who was the chair of the Senate Banking Committee, was rightfully skeptical of this type of legislation. And that was something that stopped stablecoin legislation from happening. And in 2024, it's no coincidence that he was one of the chief targets of the crypto spending and
was defeated.
Yep. And now Republicans obviously have the control in both the House and the Senate. Republicans have typically been pretty friendly towards crypto. There are also very friendly crypto Democrats. And with all of them together and with this sort of sense that it's time, because the crypto industry has sort of paid for this, that this should be the priority. And I think it's worth stepping back and thinking about that for a second. We're talking a tiny fraction of the American population that owns crypto. We're talking about a country with so many big problems that need to be solved. And the fact that this is the only thing that Congress can really get together and move on in a bipartisan way is frankly pretty damning.
When you say makes it less safe, is that because you think, big commercial players are buying crypto assets or buying crypto ETFs, or because if one of the big stablecoins fails, that the U.S. will then be kind of talked into a bailout?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And I think it's sort of a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, right? They go together. If crypto can fail and it's not a big deal, then we don't have to do a bailout, right? That's the situation we had in 2022, where we all celebrated for a brief moment how great it was that crypto wasn't integrated with the rest of our financial system and there were no spillovers. But the more that institutional players are attracted into this space, and really that's the name of the game with this kind of legislation, is legitimizing this stuff for institutional players. So the more institutional players get into this space, the more pension funds invest in this. The bigger it gets, the more interconnected it gets with the other parts of our financial system, the more inevitable it is that there will either have to be bailouts or people losing their pension funds when the crypto industry busts.
There's also this other part of the bill that I want to get into before we get deep into some of the other players. It basically would allow a tech company, Meta, Amazon, Google, what have you, to issue its own stablecoin. They would have to get some regulatory approval, but is the goal here like you buy your Meta-backed stablecoin and then go on a Meta platform and have a targeted ad served to you because of what Meta knows about you, and then you spend your Meta asset on something?
Yeah, I'm glad you raised this because this is, of all the things that keep me awake at night, this is the thing I'm most worried, which is about basically the largest tech platforms becoming our de facto banks. And if you want to sort of know what that looks like, you can look to China, where it's already happened. So you have things there like Alipay and WeChat Pay being sort of they're just financial wallets. They're not even stable coins, right? They still have to be linked to a bank account somewhere. What we're offering up with this legislation is the opportunity for these tech platforms to cut the banks out entirely, right? So you buy your stable coin, you keep your stable coin, in a wallet on that platform. The idea is to keep you on the platform as much as possible, right? If you can pay within the platform, you never have to leave, you never have to log out. They have all the data about what you're paying for things, and that's really important data.
This sounds like Elon Musk's Everything app idea.
Funny you should mention that, because there's, I think, an exception tailor-written for Elon Musk in this statute. So you mentioned that it's not a complete free-for-all for the big tech platforms to offer a stable coin. They have to get approval from a small committee of government officials. And I think in this current administration, that's a fait accompli probably that would be given. But in a future administration where it might be a little harder to convince the authorities, that committee only weighs in if the stablecoin is offered by a publicly traded company. So if you are private, for example, X, then you don't have to worry about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When we come back, sure, the Trump administration wants this bill, but so do several high-profile Democrats.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today? Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices, and that's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies, so you can save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states and situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This episode is brought to you by Outshift by Cisco. While single agents can handle specific tasks, the real power comes when specialized agents collaborate to solve complex problems. But there's a fundamental gap. There is no standardized infrastructure for these agents to discover, communicate with, and work alongside each other. That's where Agency comes in. The Agency is an open-source collective building the Internet of Agents, a global collaboration layer where AI agents can work together. It will connect systems across vendors and frameworks, solving the biggest problems of discovery, interoperability, and scalability for enterprises. With contributors like Cisco, Crew AI, LangChain, and MongoDB, Agency is breaking down silos and building the future of interoperable AI. Shape the future of enterprise innovation. Visit agency.org to explore use cases now. That's agntcy.org. If you're running a business, you know how important it is to stay connected to your customers, and having a flexible and efficient phone system is essential to succeed. Introducing OpenPhone, the #1 business phone system that streamlines and scales your customer communications. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer, and your team can share one number and collaborate on customer calls and texts like a shared inbox. That way, any teammate can pick right up where the last person left off, keeping response times faster than ever. Plus, with AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, you'll be able to automate follow-ups, ensuring you'll never miss a customer interaction again. So whether you're a one-person operation or have a large team that needs better collaboration tools, check out OpenPhone. See why over 50,000 businesses trust OpenPhone to manage their business's calls and texts. OpenPhone is offering TBD listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/TBD. That's openphone.com/TBD. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. Let's talk about the political players here. Obviously, the president and the Trump family are deeply invested in crypto. World Liberty Financial recently launched its own stablecoin, USD1. And a few weeks ago, an Abu Dhabi investment firm chose that stablecoin to finance an investment in the crypto exchange Binance. Is there any way that the Trump family wouldn't make money from this bill?
I don't think so. I mean, as I said, the whole point of this bill is to legitimize stablecoins, to encourage people to come into the market because it has a patina of regulation and seems to have congressional blessing. So more people buying stablecoins, more liquidity for stablecoins, that's the end goal. And so, of course, that's going to benefit other stablecoin issuers.
But it's not just Trump. There are 16 Democrats who are behind this. Senator Gillibrand is one of the sponsors. Why are so many Democrats supportive of this?
Well, I think the story, again, goes back a little while, particularly to Sam Bankman-Fried in 2022. There has always been an explicit attempt by the crypto industry to court Dems as well as Republicans to play both sides of the aisle. And the rhetoric that they've used with Democratic constituencies is very much the rhetoric of financial inclusion, right? People who were locked out of banking before, and now this provides an alternative.
And that makes sense when you think theoretically about sort of DeFi protocols. Yes, I can see that argument.
Well, do you want me to tell you why it's wrong?
Sure.
Yeah. I have had this conversation with stablecoin executives who have admitted I am right in private. To get a stablecoin, you must go onto a crypto exchange and purchase it. To open an account with a crypto exchange, you must have a bank account. We are not banking the unbanked here, people. It is a furphy. But if you are a Democrat and you want crypto industry money, if you want to be friendly to this industry, it's a very neat, albeit superficial narrative to call, like that these are people who are getting financial services who otherwise wouldn't be. It's not true, but it works for the Democratic brand.
They're also using the inevitability argument, which Mark Warner from Virginia made, basically saying blockchain technology is here to stay. If American lawmakers don't shape it, others will. And I can see the argument he's making that, okay, stablecoins are less risky theoretically than other crypto assets, and that by doing this, they, put in some kind of threshold for liquid, safe, or safer assets. Does that hold any water for you?
Not really, for two reasons. The first reason I already sort of spoke about a little bit, and that is that there were already laws on the books that could have addressed this and addressed this in a much more robust way in terms of protecting both consumers and the financial system.
Like making the Fed their regulator?
Yeah, I mean, you want to do this, get a bank charter, right? If you don't have a bank charter or you don't fit within the money market mutual fund regulations, you cannot do this, right? So that's sort of one argument, that this is actually worse than the status quo. And then there's the inevitability argument, which is something that I really sort of struggle with a lot personally. I think we cede so much public interest by just sort of accepting that whatever the tech industry comes up with is something that we just have to take and accommodate. And it's linked to the point I just made, which is that there are laws on the books that can address a lot of this. And yet we don't enforce them because we've sort of become captured by this narrative that tech innovation is something that is so powerful we could never stop it if we tried. But also, tech innovation is something so vulnerable that we should never get in the way of because we need to nurture and protect it. And it doesn't really work that both of those can be true. But we hear both narratives weaponized all the time.
I covered the 2008-2009 crash. You were on the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission. Where would you put stablecoins if you had to think about the things we saw then that were kind of unexploded ordinances in the financial system?
That's a tough one. because history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. The closest analogy for me are the money market mutual funds.
Which broke the buck.
Yeah.
That meant the value of one share fell below $1. I remember it. It was scary for a lot of regular people's retirement funds.
So not the thing that kicked off the crisis, but a transmission mechanism of panic and something that needed to be bailed out in the end because they weren't as safe as everyone thought they were. So I wouldn't call stablecoins necessarily the credit default swaps, the weapons of mass destruction that caused the crisis. But I would point out that for a problem in the crypto industry to actually have ripple effects, it has to get big and interconnected with the rest of the financial system. And the stablecoins are the mechanism for doing that. So even if they're not the trigger for a future crisis, they are both a transmission belt of problems and a prior factor that's likely to make that crisis a bigger deal.
Hilary also points out that stablecoins are not always so stable. The stablecoin USDC was initially pegged to the dollar, but the company that issued it held its reserves at Silicon Valley Bank. When the bank collapsed in 2023, the value of one USDC share, which was supposed to stay at $1, fell below 87 cents.
So they're not that safe. And one thing that I think is really interesting on this point is that people say, well, okay, they lose their peg all the time and no one has run yet. And my answer to that is, I think that's because right now the way people look at stable coins is that you either use them for illegal payments or you use them as an on-ramp or off-ramp for crypto speculation. You don't treat them like your money. But what this bill does is it's sort of broadcasting to Americans, this is a safe money substitute. Once it becomes treated as money by people, then even the smallest depegging can be enough to cause people to freak out.
So if you're someone who's listening to this who's like, I don't care about crypto, that's for tech guys, I'm not going to put my money in that, you could still get burned.
Yeah.
What should people do if they hear what you say and they're terrified?
Well, I mean, there's two things. First is, you can protect yourself from the immediate effects by not being a crypto investor, right? Even if this law gets passed, you hopefully know that stablecoins are not as safe as they appear to be. You know that the bill does nothing to address a run because it assumes the one will never happen. So hopefully that will be enough to discourage you from buying a stablecoin. Oh, another reason why you should never buy a stablecoin. There's this sort of rhetoric that people think that you can go to the stablecoin issuer and get $1 back from them for your stablecoin, because that's how bank deposits work. That's how a money market mutual fund works. You can go to the issuer and they can redeem. With a lot of stablecoins, a lot of particularly USDC, most customers have no direct redemption right against the issuer. The big fish do. They can go to USDC and say, give me $1 for my stablecoin. But for average Joes, you're restricted to selling on an exchange. And if people don't want to buy it from you from $1, you're not going to get $1 for it, even if it has the reserve of assets there. So this has been your PSA for why stablecoin usage is not great. But that doesn't protect you from the second order effects of if crypto blows up our whole economy, what do we do? And sadly, the only way to address that is through our democratic process. I think the crypto industry has benefited very much from this being a low salience issue, to the point you made, most people are like, I don't care about crypto. I don't want to learn about this stuff. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. And because the public hasn't been paying attention, which I understand and respect, a lot of this stuff has been allowed to progress without much pushback. I think the irony is that Trump's involvement in all of this has raised the salience, and more people are now saying, okay, why is this crypto bill getting passed by Democratic senators when it's such a gift to Donald Trump? So I think we're at the beginning of sort of a mobilization of public support against the industry's legislation. And I guess that's the only silver lining I see.
What would good crypto legislation look like?
Well, I mean, I testified on before the Senate Banking Committee after the fall of FTX, and I was asked, I think by Senator Van Hollen, if you were queen for a day, what would you do? And I said, I'd ban it. And I think there's this misunderstanding that, the industry will tell you that a ban is impossible. It's not impossible. But I very much doubt we're going to get there. So then what else could we do? To my mind, legislation that confirms that this is either a bank deposit or a money market mutual fund, and you need to operate within one of those frameworks is what I'd be looking for.
Hilary Allen, thank you so much for coming on and for talking with me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hilary Allen is a professor at American University Washington College of Law. She's also the author of Driverless Finance, FinTech's Impact on Financial Stability. And that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Patrick Fort and Shayna Roth. Our show is edited by Evan Campbell. TBD is part of the larger What Next family, and if you like what you heard, the number one best way to support our independent journalism is to join Slate Plus. You get all your podcasts, including this one, ad-free, and no paywall on the Slate site. Just head on over to slate.com/whatnextplus to sign up. We will be back next week with more episodes. I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks for listening.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate or Postpaid Unlimited Plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
I'm Leon Nafok, and I'm the host of Slow Burn, Watergate. Before I started working on this show, everything I knew about Watergate came from the movie All the President's Men. Do you remember how it ends? Woodward and Bernstein are sitting at their typewriters, clacking away. And then there's this rapid montage of newspaper stories about campaign aides and White House officials getting convicted of crimes, about audio tapes coming out that prove Nixon's involvement in the cover-up. The last story we see is Nixon resigns. It takes a little over a minute in the movie. In real life, it took about 2 years.
5 men were arrested early Saturday while trying to install eavesdropping equipment. It's known as the Watergate incident.
What was it like to experience those 2 years in real time? What were people thinking and feeling as the break-in at Democratic Party headquarters went from a weird little caper to a constitutional crisis that brought down the president? The downfall of Richard Nixon was stranger, wilder, and more exciting than you can imagine. Over the course of 8 episodes, this show is going to capture what it was like to live through the greatest political scandal of the 20th century. With today's headlines once again full of corruption, collusion, and dirty tricks, it's time for another look at the gate that started it all. Subscribe to Slow Burn now, wherever you get your podcasts.